So how do you make intake valve closing decisions, exhaust valve opening decisions, intake valve opening decisions, and exhaust valve closing decisions based on this data? It's really hard to get some good stuff, okay? And the reason it's hard to get good stuff right here is because this is skewed or kind of, I think it's poor data. I think it's bad data. What you really want is performance improvements. You want the flow bench. People say, well, what are your heads flow? And I say, at what lift? Well, at 600. Okay, at what depression? 10 inches, 20 inches, 25 inches, 28 inches. By then, I've probably lost them. And I'd be like, he's so smart, but he wants to just confuse me. No, I want to know why you want to know what the heads flow. They flow a lot. They got a big valve. The port's opened as big as it can be, and if you don't have enough velocity, then you got the wrong cam timing. That's my opinion. The piston's going up and down 100 times a second. What are you looking for in velocity? I mean, it's coming backwards. It's going in. It's coming backwards. It's coming in and it's blowing backwards. And the intake port, y'all, it's going in and out like this 100 times a second. So if you don't have enough velocity, you're opening the valves and closing the valves at the wrong time, and you're running the wrong RPM. My opinion. Intake valve closing. All right, now on my camshafts that we sell for the Milwaukee 8s, they come from decades of learning all the wrong things based on this information, based on the internet, based on the sheets that come with the camshafts that tell you all the timing numbers. If you buy a camshaft based on what you read on the internet and something says if your heads flow 320, you got to close the intake valve by a certain number right here. Now, don't let me confuse you with these numbers, 40, 40, 10, and 10. These are percentages of importance, in my opinion. Not your opinion, not Joe Cylinderhead opinion, not the guy that ports your head's opinion, not the guru that internets up everything about his opinions. That's all mine are. That's just my opinion. I'm interneting up to everybody. The intake valve closes. The closure of this intake valve is 40% of everything you need to know about designing a camshaft, in my opinion, to suit your engine based on your performance and the RPM range you want the engine to run. The second most important one is the exhaust valve open, and it's 40% important also, in my opinion. The intake valve opening is the third most important event, and it is 10%, which is really wrong. It's about 5% of what really matters. And the fourth one is a pretty good tie between third and fourth. They're both last place. This is very, very important. This is very, very important. And these two right here are a good toss-up. The only reason you have these at all is to keep the valve from hitting the piston at TDC or overlap. And that's another story for another day. But I put 10 to be kind. 10% of the information required to design a good program. All right. Why is this one important? Well, your piston's going down one of those 100 times, or maybe it's 50 times on the intake stroke and 50 times on the power stroke, adds 100 times that down on one power stroke. I mean, the 4 strokes of the engine. I tell it every week. Intake, compression, power, and exhaust. It takes 4 strokes. You got to open the intake valve, you got to close the intake valve, you got to open the exhaust valve, you got to close the exhaust valve. And those 4 events, notice there's no lobe centers here. There's no separation angles. There's no duration mentioned. That's what they want to know. What's my separation angle? What's the duration? And my cylinder head guy says I need this number to be 68, or I need this number to be 72. And I got to know the compression ratio. I got to know the head flow, and I got to know the intake valve closing before I buy your camshaft. Okay? I'm sorry, that's just something that was taught to us on the internet by the people that believe it, just like me. I believe what I'm talking about here. And I'm cool. I am so good with what you believe. And if you tuned in here to watch what I believe, it's going to start off right here. And then it trickles off into the gifts of time and opportunity that I've had to learn these things. And now I want to share them with you because I was taught over my years to share. And I want to share what I think I know, not the gospel about this. It's just what I think I know. So Intake valve closing is very important. Exhaust valve open is very important. When the intake valve opens is not important to me, and when the exhaust valve closes is not important to me. So if you can understand from all these things, the overlap is not as big as importance as it used to be, because back in the day, overlap was, I think Ed Inskidarian, great man, smart guy, innovator, pioneer, said he used it as the fifth stroke of the four-stroke engine. Well, that was great for 4,000 RPM Studebakers and flatheads, and you couldn't even buy anything but an Offenhauser with 3 Strombergs and a header that only had 3 pipes out the side of a V8 on each side. I'm telling you, man, that's all they had. They had to focus on that kind of stuff. But now we can get any flow we want, any bore size.